Good evening and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers. It is Thursday, time for another viewer's voice and the much anticipated FSG show. Joining me tonight, we've got Gav, Seany, and making his debut on the show, Jonathan. Jonathan, nice to have you on.
Thanks very much, Matt. Pleasure to be on. I suppose I'm listening to the podcast since the early days, Trev Downey days. And I think, Gav, were you on a podcast called the Enfield Wolves?
I
Something like
was.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, long time listener, and long time antagonizer on Twitter, some might say. Or Seany said a cheeky bollocks. But yeah, pleasure to be on.
Well, it's good for you. Not a lot of antagonizers on Twitter have the sack to make their faces seen and actually stand up and back their comments up. Seany, how are you? Looks like you're living the high life currently.
You're muted.
Oh, he's muted himself again.
Gav giving out to me again. The remnants of a COVID lockdown. My brother-in-law built a bar out his back garden. So Guinness off the tip, and I'm already 1 or 2 in. So it's lovely hoarding. And again, big props to Jonathan for having the bollocks to come on, which takes a bit of down. You know what I mean? Because there's not many who would. So and. Me and Jonathan have been annoying each other on Twitter for years, but it's all good crack, you know what I mean? I see people in the chat waiting for it to kick off here. I don't think it will. I think this is going to be just a general discussion around FSG, and whatever way it goes, but it's never personal.
No, and look, sure, as I always say on Twitter, there's no, I mightn't be right. There's no guarantee. It's just an opinion. There's no right or wrong. Some people feel that their opinion is gospel. I guarantee you, I don't think that.
No, it's definitely not. There's very little you can believe 100% that you see on Twitter. Gav, finally got it put together. You all ready? Got stacks of copious notes, talking points?
Not a single note. No,
really?
Not a single note unless you want me to sing. But no, looking forward to it because you know what? This FSG stuff comes up day in, day out. It's very easy to avoid if you don't go onto social media, but it has come up.
Yep.
A lot of people that have views on it, I think, find it hard to portray them views in a proper way, whether they're right or wrong, or they believe they're right or wrong. I think they find it hard to portray in the setting that is Twitter or social media. So to come on here and chat about it, and you know, for me personally, I think there's good points, there's bad points, there's optimism, and then there's a bit of skepticism as well when you look forward. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting over the next hour or so.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. So, kind of the format we're going to go with is just want to kind of run through in sort of chronological format of FSG's just over 12 years now that they've been in charge of the team. But I think a good place to start is, October 15th, 2010 was when FSG were allowed to buy the club. You know, I wasn't nearly the level of fan I was at the time. Jonathan, you remember your feelings around this time, like the state of the club under Hicks and Gillette, and how you felt knowing that we were getting new owners in?
Yeah, I remember at the time there was people very worried about administration, and the club was going to go into administration. But I never felt that was going to happen. I thought Liverpool were too big to fail, and I suppose then the American owners took over. To be brutally honest, I didn't have any opinion really because I knew nothing about them. I knew absolutely nothing about them, so I wasn't excited nor was I disappointed at the time. I suppose I was a little bit younger at the time. I was probably thinking, geez, I'd love a Roman Abramovich type figure now who's going to come in and put in loads of money. But I suppose as you get older, you probably think and you read more into the type of figure that Roman Abramovich was, and you're saying, do you really want that involved with your club? But yeah, at the time, I'd say indifferent. I never believed the thing that FSG saved the club, and I don't like when people say that. I never felt the club was ever going to go into administration or ever fail.
Yeah, well, I mean, according to the things I read, because my memory on it's pretty foggy, like, Johnny, it was hours away from administration.
Yeah, but I'm with Jonathan on that. I don't think we would have never went into administration. I think there would have been many suitors around waiting for. This was just a look, if I'm being honest, like, you could call this like, and this is not a negative, this is just capitalism in a nutshell. This was a massive opportunistic grab for anybody with the chops and the money to pick up Liverpool at a pretty penny. And Hex and Gillette left us in a fucking awful state. But I don't think it would have ever gotten to administration. I couldn't see it personally myself. Like Jonathan said, I just think it's too bit. Look, we've seen it at Rangers, but that was completely different. They were there was no due diligence done there. Basically, the banks got these pair of pricks, Hicks and Gillette, out of the club. They called in everything they owned. They hadn't got it. They had to sell us. It was never going to be an administration thing. So I'm with Jonathan when I say I don't like the term FSG saved Liverpool. I think they done really well to get us at the price they got us at. And looking now, it's been one hell of an investment for them.
Yeah, there can be no denying that. I mean, £300 million at the time the club was valued at 532 million. So to get it for almost half of what it's quote unquote valued at is pretty good money. And Gav, one of the things I learned doing the research for this was that basically New England Sports Ventures, as they were called at the time, they were about the only bidder for Liverpool that weren't making their bid on the assumption of building a new stadium. They were about the only ones that wanted to stay at Anfield. Do you remember, because that's before me, of these £50 million worth of designs and drawings and stuff like that. Were you ever on board with the idea of owners that would get us out of Anfield and build a shiny new stadium in the water?
The thing at the time was, if you wanted to progress as a club, you had to build a new stadium. It was a massive thing at the time. Arsenal done it in 2006. City had got their new stadium in, I think, 2003 after the Commonwealth Games, I think it was. And, Hicks and Gillette took over the club, and they done it in a similar way that the Glazers done at United, where they just load of loans, go in, get the club, and that was off the back of was it DIC, the Dubai-based crowd that were meant to buy the club, and they were telling the Liverpool owners at the time to order all this steel for this stadium, and then it turns out that they didn't come through with the bids. So it was mad. I remember being over in Liverpool at the time. At games when the whole Hicks and Gillette stuff was going on. It was madness. It was absolute madness. And, the whole, FSG saved Liverpool, I think that might be going a bit far but we were saved it doesn't matter what way it was happening. The banks were going to get them out. It was as simple as that. So we were saved from them rather than the club saved, if you know what I mean, because they were fucking mad. They turned up, they were drawn in a different stadium every week. They wanted a spade in the ground about 4 hours after they took over the club. It was just madness. It was like, I'm watching Ted Lasso at the minute, and it's like basically an ownership version of Ted Lasso where they wander in and go, hey, let's not do this. This is fucking great. There's a big park. Let's build a stadium. It was insane. But Shawnee's right, and Jonathan is right as well. It's, they see something. They're investors. That's what they are. They're investors. They see that opportunity at 300 million, which is about 60% of the value of the club. They go in, they do a deal. Was it Lloyds Bank? I think it was at the time. Lloyds Bank come in, and Hicks and Gillette are gone, and they're throwing shapes. Hicks and Gillette, we're going to protest this, we're going to do this. But they hadn't got a leg to stand on because they couldn't pay the money back because they weren't making the money out of Liverpool. Liverpool, as a marketing entity, was poor. At that time, was really, really poor, and they weren't making that money back. They were making promises on new stadiums when they couldn't even pay their bills. So FSG, or whatever, the New England Sports Ventures, whatever they were called at the time, they go and they get the club. And I'm with Jonathan. I knew nothing about them. All I knew was Hicks and Gillette are bad fucking news, and I had to get to the stage where the banks went, we're repossessing this. That's how bad they were. That's all you really need to know on them.
Yeah, it's FSG comes in. It was 10 years after they had bought the Red Sox, so they bought the Boston Red Sox in 2001. Since then, they've added the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey team. They have half of a NASCAR racing team. They own 80% of the New England Sports Network, and they own the Boston Globe and real estate and a bunch of other stuff like that. So, when we talk about FSG, really we're talking about 3 people and another group that's just come on board in Redbird this year. John W. Henry owns 40% of FSG. He's the principal owner. Tom Werner's the chairman. He's the second largest stakeholder. Redbird this spring, last spring, 750 million for, I believe it was 10 or 15%, made them the third largest, and Mike Gordon, the president, is the fourth largest. So it's really just those 4 that we're talking about here. One of the first things they did when they came in, a couple of days later, Christian Perslow left as managing director, went on to much greener pastures, I'm sure now. And then Damien Comolli was brought in as director of football strategy. And shortly thereafter, Hodgson gets the sack. We get through Torres being sold, Carroll coming in. And by May of 2011, FSG has finished paying off the debts that Hicks and Gillette had racked up on building a new stadium, £50 million worth. And shortly after that is when Michael Edwards came on board for the team. Now, this is where we hit the often talked about Moneyball era of Liverpool. There was an interview that Damien Comolli did after he left the job where he said he was given a directive from the team that they weren't allowed to spend more than $10 million on a player, and the player had to be under the age of 21. And if you look at the signings that came out after that, plus or minus a couple million here or there, that's literally, they followed it exactly to the plan. Jonathan, do you think that Moneyball idea was necessary for the team to come in? Like, was that necessary for Liverpool to get back on a sound financial footing?
Just to clear up, I'm not Corbell your age. I see a few people asking in the chat. Is that No, I'm not. I'm not that famous man. Trying to think of their first few years in charge, who we even signed at the time. I suppose Moneyball, it's more suited to the baseball type stats type game. I know football stats has been used more in football in the modern day, but there's still the eye test in football, where I think baseball, similar to, I suppose, cricket and sports like that, where stats are more prevalent. So I suppose they came in a little bit green, and as time went by, they moved slightly away from the Moneyball, probably fused Moneyball more with an eye test and a football knowledge.
Yeah, it's actually
when does Comolli come in?
Comolli comes in on the 3rd of November 2010, and he is let go on the 12th of April of 2012. So he gets about a year and a half.
But is that off the back of
Comolli made?
Is that off the back of them being really stung by Andy Carroll, right? And then they do 20 million on Stuart Downing, because they give Dalglish a fair whack of money, from what I remember. And the only one that's really worked out was Jordan Henderson, I think about 16 million.
When Comolli was in charge of the signings, his marquee signings were Andy Carroll, Luis Suarez, Jordan Henderson, Stuart Downing. So you're looking 20 million, 23 million, and 5 million. Other than that, you got the likes of Charlie Adam, Donny, Jose Enrique, Coates, Bellamy, Ibe, Danny Ward, Shea Ojo, and Jerome Sinclair. Comolli did spend a little bit of money, but
I think kind of Downing, Charlie Adam, Carroll, they were kind of the Moneyball type thing, where I think Downing's stats were very good for crosses, and Charlie Adams' corners were obviously worth X amount of corners. Fergie, is that what it was? 10 million. And then they were trying to work around Andy Carroll being, I suppose, one of the best headers of the ball in the league. So there was definitely a Moneyball element, I'd say, to those first raft of signings.
I think Moneyball was necessary in a way to get us where we needed to go. Because if you look around that time, that's the inception of like Man City's owners coming in and starting to spend a lot of money, and United having like more than disposable income, and Chelsea. So like if you look back to then, the type of players we were trying to buy, like there was so many signings we just missed out on, like the likes of Mkhitaryan and Willian. We kind of had the budget to do that, and if you look, like that was basically the cornerstone on which the team that Klopp built works off, really, when you think about it. Like when you look at sort of the players we got in for minimum and sold them, and were able to build the club around. So I think a lot is made of, like, so many clubs are adopting the Moneyball approach now. Like the likes of Brentfords and the Salzburgs. I think Liverpool, but maybe in that regard, we were kind of ahead of the curve. But I think you have to apply that to the era that I was in, was like 2010, 2012, 2014, 2015. Like for where Liverpool are now and plan to be, like the Moneyball approach is not going to get it done. So, and I can't remember like the last, let's say, people would say Minamino was Moneyball, but it was just low risk. You know, like I don't really think it was.
Yeah, but it only ended up being something like fucking 7 million profit. Like the thing
No, it
is,
wasn't something that they. I think a lot is made of the Moneyball, but I think, to be honest with you, I think they kind of pioneered that a little bit, and it stood to us because, like, 13 and 14, you look at the guts of that squad and what that done. You look at the type of manager that FSG were trying to appoint after Kenny. They looked at Martinez, they looked at Ancelotti, and they ended up with Brendan Rodgers. So you kind of like Moneyball was never to the detriment of a manager. I don't think. I think maybe fractured relationships between a director of football, we're kind of, this is hearsay, but it looked like Michael Edwards and Rodgers kind of never really clicked. It was kind of sort of like, I want Benteke. Okay, well, if you get Firmino, I want Benteke. It was always sort of an eye for an eye sort of thing, and it was never really. There was no what's the word I'm looking for? There was no cohesion until really Klopp comes in. So, like, Moneyball is something that still, it's a stick that's still used to beat FSG with, and I think it's very outdated. I think it's a silly shout. I think there's many things you can level upon FSG, but I think trying to use Moneyball against them in a negative term is a little bit silly. They did what they had to do with what they had at the time, and you need to realise that, like, FSG, where it stands for Sports Group, this is what they do. They build franchises. This is what they did with Liverpool, and that's what they were trying to do. And I think when you look back, it worked to an extent. I think it was the building blocks on which this team is built on that we're currently seeing now. So it's kind of
but it happens in stages, Sean.
It needed to happen. It was a necessary process, though. I think the Moneyball thing was a necessary process because we didn't have the money to be thrown around wasting on players at the time.
No, but we didn't have the structure either, Shawnee, because, like,
exactly,
we've all said at the start, right? We've all said at the start that we didn't know anything about them. So you're kind of looking to see when they come in, what are they going to do? And what did he do? Torres wants to go. They throw 35 million at Andy Carroll, right? They have to fucking abduct them in Newcastle and get him in a helicopter to try to get him to Liverpool, right? And they get stung on that. And you're kind of thinking, oh, fucking hell, like, that's one of their forced acts, and look what's gone on, you know what I mean? Dalglish comes in and they spend that money on Downing, on Adam. Henderson is still here, he's lifted every trophy there's been. But they're kind of stung. And then you're kind of in this thing where you're kind of going, I don't know what these are going to do. You know, you don't really know, because one of the big things when they come in was under promise and over perform and stuff like that. They've had all these mad sayings, you know, that sort of way. But that's kind of to be expected. But they get stung early on, and you're kind of waiting to see what happens. I think a big thing for that whole Moneyball thing is that, yeah, we probably don't have the money to put in, but where we are off the pitch commercially is killing them as well. So they're probably looking at it going, if we bring in 4 or 5 players of this age at this price, and 4 of them really work, and we get a couple of years out of them, commercially we'll work in the background, and then if these players have to be moved on for an amount of money, grand. I think Coutinho's one of them, but it turns out Coutinho, because they keep building commercially, Coutinho ends up staying and then decides himself he wants to be out, you know, that sort of way. But like, the biggest challenge for them, I thought the biggest challenge for them was commercially as a club, what they were going to do and where they were going to get to, because I always say it, Man United in the early 90s looked at this and went, hold on, we know what's coming down the road, and they absolutely went for it. And look what they got out of it. They absolutely went for it. Liverpool up until 2016 were sitting in a stadium that had the same attendance, right? The same attendance in the stadium that I had in when All-Star Stadiums came in 1994. You know what I mean? So commercially it was the big thing for them, and they're an investment group, so they're going to want to see what money's coming into the club before it goes out. You know what I mean? And look, we're going to get onto it now in a minute. They made some good calls, they made some bad calls, and all owners do that, because none of them are perfect. None of them are perfect.
I think it's a good point you make regarding.
Sorry, Ola Conley says this is painful, the defence of FSG. We haven't defended them. We're just talking about what's happened in 10 years ago. Go on anyway.
Don't mind the chat. Like, when they come in, Adidas couldn't get rid of us quick enough. That was the state we were in. Adidas were like, we're not fucking sponsoring you anymore. We're not giving you that money. We ended up at Warrior. I remember literally when we got Warrior jerseys, I remember getting slagged in school.
We couldn't
Everyone was
play.
going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, literally, you're sponsored by, and no offense to anyone that wears, Jonathan and Gav will definitely be like in the know with this, but it's like we were sponsored by pennies. I was getting fucking slagged everywhere we got Warrior. So you kind of think to where we are there to now, like that's the commercial side you need to think about. And we had a little word before. The thing that wrecks my head about, like, I couldn't give a bollocks about FSG for or against, really. To be honest with you, I really couldn't. But the thing that annoys me is when you see this debate, it's always like extreme positive or extreme negative. There's no sort of correlation between the two to go, well, they done this and they done this and they done this and they done this. And like, you kind of have to look at both sides. And this is a weird one for me because I actually see myself agreeing with both sides of the argument at times. And we'll get into that because, like whatever your man's name is saying, this is painful. Like, you're not going to get a defence of FSG from me. You're going to get my outlook. And I don't think you're going to get a defence from Gav or Jonathan, to be honest with you. My outlook is, when you look at what they've done since they come into the club, they've literally grown us in every aspect. Off the field, on the field, commercial, the infrastructure at the club, training ground, the new 3D prints come out of the stadium today. And people can say, I don't give a bollocks about that stuff. But if you care about the team, you do, because this is going to be to our benefit in the years coming. But on the other hand, I would be worried about FSG's current model, sustainability in terms of will we win leagues down the line with this? And to be honest with you, I think like you'd be right to question it because you can't get lost in this. People, the FSG is a low-hanging fruit, but you need to realise what they're up against, who they're up against, and where they've come from, and exactly what they're dealing with. And that's what
like I'm a bit like you, Shawnee. Like conflicted at times. Like you're on about the stadium, and I remember we were talking on Twitter, having a little argument on Twitter, and I was saying I don't care about the stadium. I care about investment in the team. But at the same time, the stadium obviously in the future will lead to more investment in the team because it brings in more revenue. Yeah. You're kind of conflicted there. You're like, oh, bloody hell, I want them to spend the team. I don't care about a new stand, but at the same time, a new stand brings in more money.
That's because sometimes it comes across, and this is what I think. I think it comes across sometimes as, well, hold on, we need A, B, and C, but we're building a new fucking stand. Could we not get A, B, and C and then do the stand? You know, I think that's the way it comes across at times because, you know, and that's where people get conflicted, Jonathan. I think, personally, that's what I think. Because you do look at it and go, 80 million quid on that stand, like we need a fucking midfielder, you know?
Like, I'd never tell anyone how to support a football club, but I think I can understand people's frustrations. Like, people go on, where's the, like, they got X amount off Red Board, why didn't they put it into the squad? It wouldn't hurt them. I absolutely get that. But, like, you need to realise, like, some things aren't opinions. Like, some things are a matter of fact. One thing I will say is, and it does seem like we penny pinch. I won't lie, all right?
Are we taking over Matt's fucking strategy here?
No, you're really just kind of following along. Like,
okay,
man, it's like Shawnee has my notes in front of him.
No, Matt, if you want to run with it, like, but I'm just saying, like, I think we may as well just fucking get into it because, like, you need to look at it right. In a world where rule exists, where these rules exist, and you need to understand, right? FSG are playing by the rules, all right? They've molded this club and what they want to be with the idea that these rules by the governing bodies that was supposed to be put in place will exist and protect them, and they haven't, all right? So basically, from the off, they're fucked because they're up against these juggernauts who have literally, like Klopp said, the ability to spend whatever and not feel it. Because the rules originally in place to protect them aren't there, alright? That's not an opinion. That's just a fucking fact. FFP fucked them up. That's why when you look at, they wanted to go to a Super League where some governing body around could say, look, this is the way it's going to be and we're going to fucking protect them. If you look at the guts of those Super League, who was making it up? It was the American owners. They are trying to Americanise the sport, so to speak. That's what they're going to do. This is the future. This is what it looks like. I'm sorry to tell you. It's not the 90s anymore. It's not the 00s anymore. The same people who are moaning about Sky deals in the 90s, when United ran away with everything, they left us in that fucking dust. If these things were to go ahead, we had to be involved. It's the only way they can literally compete. And that's why I think people are frustrated, because we're up against the likes of Man City, who can just throw money around, and they see, we can't be like that. It's not possible. It's impossible. If you look at the books, this is not opinion. Look at the fucking books that are released every year. Go on to Mo Chatra's fucking Twitter. He breaks it down. He does it for dummies. He does it for people like me. All right. Nearly every fucking quid that comes into this club is put back into it. You're moaning about the club having no ambition and all. Why is Van Dijk signing 5-year deals? Why is Salah signing 5-year deals? You obviously don't remember. You mustn't be of age. Every star player broke my fucking heart until I was 13, 14, 15 because they just left. Because we weren't competing. We weren't anywhere near it. We couldn't pay them. These are doing it now. They're paying the money to keep the best players in the world at the club. But because it's not going out in transfers, people are up in fucking arms going, look at the net spend. For starters, net spend is a complete fallacy. If net spend was the only expenditure on a football club, we'd be fucking dandy. But it's not. Clubs have to pay bills. Bills in terms of wages. You look at fucking Nottingham Forest spent more money than us in the summer. Mo Salah probably earns more than the fucking whole Forest squad put together. So people don't factor these things in. The thing is, we're up against cheats, Gav, and it's made FSG look worse than they are. And you can go on about FSG. I'll finish on this point by now. The point I make now is, I think the anger this season is completely misdirected. I'd blame two people. Fucking Julian Ward and Jurgen Klopp are totally at fault for what's gone wrong this season, in my opinion. Because unless you're calling Klopp a lawyer or a shield for FSG, he was the one coming out saying, we don't need midfielders, we don't need this, we don't need that. And then in the fucking last day of the week, last day of the window, we're going in and looking to sign Arthur. That's not a fucking FSG thing, let me tell you. That's a Jurgen Klopp thing. And I think that really came back to bite us. And it's not saying I want Klopp out or I want him sacked. I said no. It just means he's not completely infallible. He is to blame. So you need to look. So people are turning around going, Saka is being offered 200k a week. All of these clubs are spending money to get to where we are. That's what you're missing.
Well, I think you wanted to talk about the mistakes he made, Matt. Did you?
Yes. First I'm going to hit Meme Create hit us up with a 70s czar super chat that I don't want to forget about. It says, Day Tripper lads got John on the show quicker than FSG took on Mo's contract, with those eye emoji. Great this, lads. Different opinions, proper discourse on a great platform, the way the world should be. So thanks for that, Meme Create, for the super chat. Don't forget to hit the like button, everybody. You can't... just to finish off, like the way they built the team, 2010, our revenue, 225 million euros. 10 years later, 604 million euros. Almost tripling the revenue of the club. In that time, they've added 8,000 seats in the main stand have already been added. There's another 7,000 going up in the Annie Road stand. The new training center, the new club store, all these things that are going along with it. So from the infrastructure side of things, they've definitely been spending on the club, but it's not been without its missteps. 2016, 77-pound ticket walkout. 2020, during COVID, they tried to furlough the staff. 2019, they tried to trademark the word Liverpool. And then, of course, 2021, we had that wonderful 72 hours of the European Super League. So, I mean, Gab, they have had some missteps along the way. Like, nobody can be defending FSG as being perfect owners, can they?
No owner is perfect. You know, the £77 ticket was ridiculous, and Klopp even at the time turned around and said it was ridiculous. You know, and I always think back. I was watching Guardiola the other day being interviewed, and about somebody asked him about the chants from the Man City fans at Anfield, and he went, "Oh well, if that happened, I'm sorry," and I'm like, you know what happened? Just come out and say it. And I always think back to the £77 ticket thing, because Klopp sits in a press conference and goes, "Yeah, I completely understand where the fans are coming from." You know, and he just says it out there. The furlough of the staff was, it's another bad move. And you know what? There is times where I don't know if they have their finger on the pulse with the fan base at times, all the time, or fully at 100%. But there is times where they completely take their eye off the ball, like the furlough of the staff, trying to copyright the name LFC or Liverpool and stuff like that was like, what are you going on about? Because if they'd have been successful, anything with Liverpool written on our Liverpool FC or LFC, like you just couldn't do. Like we couldn't have that liveaboard on screen. Did you see? You know what I mean? If like you couldn't have LFC in the name of it was madness. And the Super League stuff was I was just beside myself with fucking anger over the Super League, because and not just at FSG, there was loads of clubs went into it, but my whole thing about it was that my feeling on the Super League, and it's probably changed a little bit because the UEFA have just followed the same model really, but my whole thing about it was that how can you just be in a competition without qualifying for it and then turn around and play league games every week? Like the league would mean nothing. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely nothing. And I got so fucking annoyed about that, because I was like, first of all, they've just gone out and they've just decided that they're doing it. Now, I get what Seany's saying with regards to, well, you don't want to be left behind, correct. But FSG should have looked at it and said, they should have shown some trust in Liverpool's fan base, where they went, listen, they're a very knowledgeable fan base. Can we not go to whatever supporters groups or whatever it might be and put it out there? You know, but it all seemed to be doing very cloak and dagger. And it was cloak and dagger, because they all just made this statement I think it was one Sunday night we were doing a show, and it was like, oh, we're going to Super League, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? So it was one of those things, and you know what happened, you know, after that, you know, there was uproar, but they done that completely and utterly wrong. So, you know, if people ever turn to me and say, oh, you know, they're not perfect at this, I go, no, they're genuinely not perfect. And I've no doubt that as a fan, I'll probably look at FSG and within the next 6 months ago, they've made the wrong decision there, or they do this wrong, or they do that wrong, because they're never going to get everything right. But some of the things they've got wrong have been like huge things. Do you know what I mean? But they're still here. The amount of times they get things wrong seems to lessen as things go on, and they seem to learn. But I think they won't get many things wrong if they trust the fan base, if they listen to the fan base, and they've put a thing in place now where, you know, fans have a not a seat, so much a seat on the board, but a direct route to the board, which can only be good if you listen to Spirit of Shankly and stuff like that. So that's a positive step, because it kind of insulates the fan base and protects the fan base in a. And what I mean by that is that they'll know about it before it's just sprung on them at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night that we're going into this, you know, this mad league. Ali says that the Super League is still going on. It probably will happen, but it won't happen before.
Europa League.
What?
It's on the way.
Oh no, I don't doubt it might be on the way, but I'm hoping that if it is on the way again, that FSG, with what they've put in place and put under pressure. Let's be honest. Like, I don't think people give an awful lot of credit to FSG for, oh, look what they've done and let the fans in here. Yeah, you can give them a certain amount of credit because they've done that, but let's be honest. The reason that this supporters representatives have an official place within the club now is because those supporters representatives pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and not shamed them into it, but more or less went, well, look, if you're going to make these mistakes, would you not do it? Well, we're here to protect you a little bit. And FSG in the end took the bait, and that's where we are at the minute.
It seems like a lot of it is, I mean, at the end of the day, when I've been thinking about this, you know, it's the who, what, when, where. There's the question of why, and these guys own this team to make money. There was a comment earlier that said FSG cares more about the Red Sox than they do about Liverpool, and I think it's both correct and incorrect. without a question, these guys are baseball fans. Like, these guys love baseball and they love the Boston Red Sox. But there's way more money to be made for Liverpool. Like, there's some emails that came out from when they were trying to buy the team, and they're like, if we can get it for 300 million, it's an absolute steal. And the growth here is unbelievable because the best minds aren't working in English soccer. And they're talking about things like fans can't watch every game internationally. They're talking about because they don't really like the market in England was so saturated that you couldn't grow that much. But the potential for growth internationally with football is unbelievable. It's totally unrivaled to any other sport, really. And we've got to the point now where I'm an international fan. I watched 63 games last year, live streaming on the internet. Like, they are doing their things by putting the best minds into place. Like, Billy Hogan went from chief commercial operator. Now he's, I think, CEO of the team, but it shot our revenues way up through the roof. But like, to me, and Jonathan, I'll come to you on this one. The big question when it comes to gauging the success or failure of the ownership vis-a-vis the team on the field is, where is that line drawn? Like, where do you put this is ownership's fault and this is Klopp or Michael Edwards or Julian Ward's fault when it comes to, transfer windows?
I think the decline, like, this sounds really strange. The decline is not the right word, but the summer of 2019 when we won the Champions League, and we all know what summer window we had that year, Adrian, Harvey Elliott and Sepp van der Berg. I think the rot started to set in then. Now, that sounds mental because I know we won the league the year after and we subsequently nearly won a quadruple last year. But we're suddenly in a situation now where we probably need 4 midfielders and another attacker and maybe a Matip upgrade with age. So we've got the situation now where we possibly need 6 players, and that's unforgivable for a club of Liverpool size, to be honest. And we've got the situation where we're now treading water in this season, really trying to get to January and try to get in a couple of players. Like, every time I watch us play at the minute now, I think, oh God, I think we need another player. I think we need a player out wide. I think we need more pace out wide. Diaz is the only fellow with pace out wide. Go into midfield. I actually think we need 4 midfielders. Like, if you look at Fabinho and Henderson, they're running and shrieking. Then I go back to the back line. I think Matip was pushing on. Do we need a Matip upgrade soon? So, like, they've been negligent towards the team in terms of investments in the team. Off the field, yes, we've invested loads in infrastructure, and like, that can't be denied. But squad investment in the last, I suppose, since 2019 has been paltry.
I think I agree. When we won the Champions League in 2019 and the same in 2020, or the Champions League, yeah, and then we win the league in 2020. We signed Jota, we signed Thiago, didn't we?
Yeah,
and was there another one?
Vandenberg. Yeah.
But
So
I agree with you.
Thiago, and then we left ourselves short the centre back that window.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I'm always of the opinion, and I've said it loads on this show. So, you strengthen from a position of strength, right? And so it means you're not chasing your tail. So when Liverpool in 2000, and I know where Jonathan's coming from. Oh, that sounds absolutely mental because we win the league the next season, right? But I think we had a brilliant squad in 2018-19. Okay, we had the same squad in 2019-20 that just went, no, we're not having this. 97 points, we haven't won the league. We're not having this. We go out and we do 99 points. But and that's absolutely brilliant, and that's all what we all wanted. And who gives a fuck about the owners when you've won the league? Like, let's be honest about it. Like, when we won the league, I didn't go, oh, FSG. I just went, we won the league. Let's all get fucking locked, right? That's the way it is, and it probably should be as a football fan. But I get where Jonathan's coming from because, one player, 2 players in that summer, no problem going and getting Van der Berg and getting Elliott, and Adrian was probably needed, but 1 player, 2 players, where you start, where I'm not asking them to come in and go, these are nailed on players this season. I'm asking for people to come in and go, he could take his place in 6 months, and he could take his place in 6 months, and look at this and look at that. And we not that we rested on our laurels. That's where the Klopp loyalty thing comes in for me. That's where there's a bit of truth in the whole Klopp loyalty thing, because he went, no, look, you've been brilliant, won a Champions League, you're a point off a league with 97 points, which was madness. We're going to have another go at it. But we lost, I think he's right, I think we lost a bit of track of where we wanted to be another year down the line. And then, of course, COVID comes in March. Was it 21 March? When does COVID come in? 2021?
March 2020.
20, yeah, of
20,
course.
20.
It was, yeah. And that comes in, and then clubs are losing money all over the shop. And Liverpool struggle, and forget everyone else, but Liverpool struggle because Liverpool are a self-sustaining entity. You know, they don't go and throw, there's another 100 million at it if we're stuck. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's losing money. So that's going to hurt you when it comes to what you're going to invest further on down the line. You know, the sort of way. And I think when it comes to where the squad is now, I think we've been a bit loyal, which is fine at times. I think we've been hurt with COVID.
I think we have, Gav. I think we.
No, but I think, Shawnee, I think COVID comes in and it lines up. But hold on, Shawnee. The COVID comes in and it lines up then with the night deal, right? And the night deal and everything's going to be this standard, and then nothing's fucking happening. And you kind of go, okay, grand. You know, they're self-sustaining entities.
You can't say nothing's happening, Gav, because
no. What I mean is that
it affects the way. Like, again, you get into it. It's not just transfers.
No, I'm not. No, what I'm saying is the ability.
And this is not an excuse. It just is.
No, I know this, Shawnee. But what I'm saying is
to keep players around.
The ability to act normally and go on is affected everyone in COVID, right? It affects them. But what I mean is the bit of loyalty there in 2019, as Jonathan speaks about, fine. COVID, fine. But then, for me, what happens is we stand still. In my opinion, we stand still. We make a couple of signings, don't get me wrong. But we stand still too much because Jonathan's right. It's not opinion on players that means you need 4 players in midfield. It's not opinion, it's fact. Naby Keita,
I agree with Jonathan.
Oxlade-Chamberlain are both out of contract. Milner's 37 years of age. So whether you like them or don't like them, come the end of the season, fact is, if you don't sign them players to deals, which you probably shouldn't, you're going to need 3. Just going to need 3, and that's where they're suffering.
But this is where it comes into it, like this is like, I'm just as an example, right? Jack Grealish hasn't pulled up trees at Man City. Doesn't have to start, all right? 100 million, they can leave him on the bench. Probably comes up at 10 minutes last night. City get Mahrez out the door for 30 million, and you could probably just go and spend 90 million on this lad from Napoli, Kvaratskhelia, like that, like it's nothing. Okay, we can't do that. We have 85 million euros worth of midfielder in Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita rotting the gaff out. They can't play enough games of football to be even in the shop window for long enough that we could fucking move them on. And then we're in a position where Chamberlain's probably on 160, 180 grand a week with a year left on his deal. He's not going to fucking take a transfer fee because he knows quite well I'll go for free next summer and get a big signing on of West Ham or wherever I choose to go. And even if you do want to fucking sell him, the fella's hamstring comes off the bone in pre-season, alright? So we couldn't just fucking do that and get rid of it and just leave the likes of a Keita and an Oxlade-Chamberlain out and not feel it, right? People are turning around saying, look at Villa and Arsenal. Our wage bill doubles both of them, G10. Doubles both of them. So if you're telling me Arsenal and Aston Villa are paying out 310 million a year, that they're outspending Liverpool to £1 in the transfer window, they're just fucking not. It's not FIFA. Look into it. I'm not making it up.
Stop making smart decisions.
I 100 and Jonathan, there you fucking go. You nailed it, alright? So you look at this window. We'll come straight to the present day. We'll cut out with everything else. You look at this window, right? Liverpool, we know this now because he's come out and said this, alright? Klopp has come out and said this. We wanted a midfielder in the summer. He signed for someone else. We all know who that fucking elephant in the room was. It's Tchouameni, alright? You're talking probably a deal for 40, 50 million would have got done and would have got you him, alright? How can you blame FSG if that deal was literally in the pipeline? It was. I'm telling you now it was. It was done until Mbappe decided to stay in PSG and Florentino Perez had a fucking chunk of change born in a hole in his pocket and took him. Literally went and paid 100 million for him, okay? So that's a player taken away from us, okay? You can't blame FSG for that. You have to look at Julian Ward and Jurgen Klopp and how between the time that Tchouameni wasn't obtained, there wasn't there wasn't another player named and signed. Okay? So this is where the right player at right time comes in. And look,
Shawnee, I'm just going to interrupt you here because
I think
we've covered this before. What does this have to do? How is this the owner's fault? This is an FSG chat. This sounds like
this
sounds like a Julian Ward,
100%.
a Jurgen Klopp problem. So are we thinking then that FSG? Would you guys think that FSG needs to be more ruthless in changing up the people that are running their organization?
No,
like
Jonathan asked a question there. Jonathan asked a question there. He said, have we stopped making smart decisions? Right? I don't know, but I think we've stopped making ruthless decisions. Right? And what I mean by that is, last summer we should have been ruthless and told Oxlade-Chamberlain, you're not coming on tour with us. Because I'm not putting you on a pitch to get injured and we can't sell you. And we probably needed to make some decisions last summer, which was to our detriment financially. Where we go, nominal fee for Oxlade-Chamberlain, we know he's on a fortune, and he has to go, and we need to go and replace him. And that's ruthlessness. That is being ruthless. That's just going, enough's enough. Some people love Naby Keita, some people don't love Naby Keita. Some in the chat are saying they think he get a deal, some feel he won't. But Naby Keita, for the amount of money we've spent on him, is not on the pitch enough for Liverpool Football Club. When he's on it, I think he's good, but he's not on it enough. So if that's the case, you turn to Naby Keita and go, he's a year left, we're taking 20 million for him. I don't know, put a number on it. We're taking 20 and we're going to have to spend 50, right? So it's going to cost us 60, 70 million this summer to sort this midfield out, right? And to our detriment financially, we're going to have to make that decision.
This summer, Gab. Well, it's gonna,
what I'm saying is
it's 100 million in January.
Yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying is they could have got X amount in, spent another 70 million on top, right? And said, we're going to sort this midfield. Right, it'll be to our detriment financially, but we will see the benefits in the next 12, 18 months to 2 years as part of what Klopp wants to do in his final 4 years at the club. You know what I mean? Now, having said that, and I said it last week, we don't know who's we don't know. There's been mixed stuff on. Is it the recruitment? Is it the manager? Is it the owner? And at the end of the day, when everything's good, Shawnee, when everything's good, people go, aren't we all fucking great? And when it's not bad, we always have to pick on one thing, and that's where I think it gets clouded because I don't really know who to blame on this midfield thing.
I'd say if John Henry saying Fabio Carvalho walking in a coffee shop, he wouldn't know who he was. So I think and that's the truth, and that's not a slight on John Henry. He is that rich. They employ people to worry about these things. But like what Matt said there, like, do you think that Liverpool, FSG, for example, Billy Hogan, right? We're going to talk about Billy Hogan, right? Say Billy Hogan went to Julian Ward. There's 50 million to go and sign that Tchouaméni fella. He's gone to Madrid. Yeah, well, you're not getting that 50 million now. It doesn't work like that.
I think we know.
And I think, Jonathan, what you said, 2019, we've been a window behind since 2019. We've been a window behind since 2019. And then the flip side of it is, if you're being completely fucking honest and not lying to yourself, what does spending even guarantee?
Yeah, I get the whole thing about what does spending guarantee, but it's not about the spending for me.
Guarantees success.
It doesn't really, though.
Like if you look back at the summer of 2018, we went big.
We were probably two bounces of a ball and two separate games away last year from winning a quadruple. We were equally as close as losing two penalty shootouts to winning nothing. That's the margins. I think that's the margins. So you can't say one midfielder would have made the difference. But to your point, Jonathan, I feel since 2019 we've been a window behind. I don't think anyone can dispute that. Yeah. We've been a window behind, and whoever you want to put whoever we want to pipe the blame onto that, I don't know who you blame, but I think that's where the recruitment falls down. Everyone was losing that shit about Michael Edwards possibly taking the job somewhere else. I think his role was completely understated. I think there's probably 6, 7, 8 people doing that job in the club. So I really feel people who are on the fence, who I put my hand up and say, I'm probably on the fence with FSG. This January window and the summer window is going to be huge for them because we're all everyone in this chat. I'd like to think.
If there's not a midfielder,
I'd like to think that.
January,
Go ahead,
if
John.
we don't have one
I'd like to
minimum
think
one midfielder walk in the door on the first week of January, the fault will lie at FSG. It would say to me that the money's not there.
Yeah.
Like the first week of January, we should have minimum one player in the window. By the second week of January, we should have a second player in. We need to sign 2 players in January. If we don't sign 2 players in January, we're not getting top 4. And there's no guarantee we get top 4 anyway if we sign 2 players.
Yeah, but I agree with you in that sense. Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you as well, right? That we need players in, and you know what does spending guarantee? Not guarantees, but it helps, right? But the thing is, like, it's not even the spending for me. It's the identifying of where the issues are and where they're going to be that we've stopped doing. You know, like the whole, like, the midfield is the big chat, right? It always is, right? But like, it's not like we've no evidence here that Oxlade-Chamberlain can't stay fit, and I'm not holding that against the fella. He gets an awful injury in 2017-18 when he's flying for Liverpool, and he just doesn't come back. Niggling injuries here, there, and everywhere. He just doesn't play. Kate is the same. Henderson's 32. Thiago has a year left in his deal, someone says there after this season. Fabinho looks like he's bollocksed. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, Fabinho at times at his peak looked like he was bollocksed when it came to, you know, coming back off international duty or coming back from an injury. And might be just a little period for him where, okay, but Henderson's 32. Milner's 37. So you have to start looking and saying to yourself, Henderson goes into the Milner role, we're in the squad. What happens, Ox? What happens, Kate? The Jones, you know, very stop-start. So it's not like these things have just jumped at us. We know what age James Milner is. We know what age Jordan Henderson is. We know how many miles he has in the legs. So there's loads.
I think Henderson is part of the bad decision making. He had 2 years left to run these contracts, and we decide to give him an extra 2 years and improve wages. Like, that's bad decision making. Like, we could easily let him run down to a year to go look at him and say, where is he in terms of his physical side of his game? And you look at him now,
but
like,
then
do you want Jordan
in the same breath, then Jonathan, you're talking about needing 4, but if Henderson's in that situation,
I know you need 5 then. I know.
Do you know what? Like, so it works that way. But I think the next 2 windows are going to be, and people say huge. Owners aren't like players and managers. You can't just fucking get rid of them. They're not going to be. They're huge in the supporters always, because the one thing I think that gets kind of lost in the glaze is that winning Premier League titles and winning Champions League and FA Cups and wherever means way more to us than any owner that could possibly own this football club. It means to them, all right? And you need to get your... Sadly, this is the way football is now. Like, they look at top 4 as money. That's the money. That's the objective, and that's the money. They don't view it from the same prism that we do. If we were to win the 28th league title, it would mean 10 times more to us than FSG. And that's not a fucking slight on them. They're capitalists from America. The question is, who else do you want to own Liverpool? That's the big thing comes into me. What's the alternative?
Like,
what's the alternative?
As I said to you,
Matt, are we allowed to speak about this now, Matt?
Yeah, I was just gonna tie it in. No, I'm having a great time just sitting back here and just gonna keep you guys all within the bounds.
Well, Matt, you should chime in as well, because, like, you think about it.
I was told I had to be neutral with no opinions on this whatsoever.
You don't have to be.
Boss man told
absolutely
me.
don't. But you need to think right. You need to look right. What do you want? Do you want? They want sugar daddies, right? Can we all agree here that
everybody wants a benevolent dictator?
No, I'll tell you what we do. That
has absolute.
I'll tell you what we do.
All the good things.
I'll tell you what we do.
No,
we'll start with Matt. Hold on. We'll start with Matt and we go around the table. Let's go around the table and forget what other people want. I think the biggest question here of the night, right? We can argue about what's gone before, right? And I think you can be right and wrong in the same answer, right? Because A, you could be right in what's happening, and B, you could be wrong because you don't actually know what the fuck's going on. You're just giving your opinion, i.e., who's to blame for not signing the midfielder? Is it Klopp, FSG, recruitment, fucking, you know, whatever? But let's go around the table then and ask ourselves, right? What for FSG going forward? Can they compete? And if they can compete, how did they do it? And if they can compete, what happens to the football club? Matt, I'll let you go first, Matt. We go Matt, Jonathan, Shawnee. I'll go last.
Okay, I'm going to tie it in with this super chat we got from Kieran Thorne for £5. Thank you very much, Kieran. It says, I remember Shawnee talking ages ago about trying to unearth the next Bellingham earlier. We've spent massively on youth, but won't give them time to develop. And I think there's a lot of sense in that, because like you're bemoaning the lack of transfer activity after we won the Champions League, but we bought Harvey Elliott that summer. That's literally the type of purchase that we want to see our club making. Is buying a kid that in 5 years you look at and go, shit, he'd be 60, 70 million pounds. So we have been doing that work. They just let it get stretched out a bit too much, and we've been absolutely owned by injuries. And I think the worst thing that's happened to the club, off the field, the worst thing that happened is the collapse of FFP. That absolutely took the knees out of FSG's entire idea for ownership. And to me,
100%.
If FFP is enforced and is an actual rule that all the teams have to play by and abide by, I don't know how much FSG are interested in going into the Super League, because it's about being able to maintain spending and see your revenue grow at a certain amount and things like that. And as soon as FFP gets thrown out the window, they look at it and they go, we can't compete. And if you can't compete, you run the risk of falling out of the Champions League spots. And when you fall out of the Champions League spots, the floor drops out of your revenue and the model becomes unsustainable. And that's why they get involved with that. It's the Americanization of it, yes, but there's some things in American sports that aren't that terrible. Salary caps aren't the worst thing in the world. They're just not. They just don't happen to have promotion and relegation, which is the best part about English sport. It is the best. I wish the NFL and the NHL had promotion relegation. It adds so much more jeopardy to it. And I think on the field, the thing that's absolutely sewered FSG the most is that our fourth highest ever transfer has been a fucking dud. And it's Naby Keita. Because we can't afford, we don't have the excess transfer budget revenue to throw 50 million after 50 million after 50 million chasing a good fullback like Manchester City or Manchester United can do. We couldn't absorb that. The team thought they had their guy. He was supposed to be the guy that was going to be that center of the midfield. He should be the anchor of our midfield right now. It should be Naby Keita and Fabinho and one other in a 4-3-3, and he's a dud. I really wanted him to work out, and it's just not going to. And so it's time to cut and run. And I don't blame FSG for not throwing good money after bad or bad money after good, however that saying goes, of seeing 50 million on Naby Keita didn't work. Well, let's go stump another 50 million next summer on pick your midfielder, because it's a coin flip or worse than a coin flip. And then the situation gets worse and worse and worse. And in a sport where one poor year can have a massive effect on your revenue for that year, and then that compounds itself and you find yourself Leedsing or Aston Villaing down the table, that's terrifying to these guys. You know, they're here to make billions of dollars. So, like, I just don't know. To me, I've never seen an instance where Jurgen Klopp has come out and said, I want to buy players, but I don't have the money. And to me, that's where the line is drawn. Is that there's never been a situation that FSG aren't willing to back them. Because if you look, Virgil van Dijk, most expensive defender ever, most expensive goalkeeper ever. Darwin Núñez is apparently the most expensive transfer ever if you put enough asterisks behind his name. They are willing to spend the money, but the fault seems like it's lying with the director of football and Jurgen Klopp, and they are sacred cows. And they, to me, I won't say anything bad about Jurgen Klopp. I hope the club never fires him. I hope he leaves when he wants to, because to me, that's the spot he has in my heart to what he's done for this football club. So I find it a bit over the top for people that don't want to blame Jurgen Klopp or our much lauded recruitment and, signing staff of Michael Edwards at all. People don't want to blame them because of all the plaudits that they've given them. So you just heap it all onto FSG. And I don't think it's correct.
These, I'm looking at some of the mad things in the chat, they don't live in the real world. I'd say these are the type of people who say rest in peace to characters that die in EastEnders on Christmas Day, writing up eulogies on Facebook about them. You don't live in the real world. Klopp the Mystic, you watch the show every week. You're telling me that Everton and Wolves outspend Liverpool. I swear to God, I will transfer every penny in my bank account to you if you could show me a single year where Everton's expenditure was higher than Liverpool's. I fucking promise you. You want us to spend like Everton? They're in the shit, you mad thing. Are you looking what's going on there? Seriously.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to say to you. Matt nailed it. FFP is in place. FSG are perfect. But they're fucking not. FFP is not in place. So they're not perfect because you have fellas in Dubai who's literally sitting there with his feet up going, how much does Erling Haaland want a week? 900k? Not a bother. Give it to him. I don't give a bollocks. What can we do about that?
Well, hold
Nothing.
on, Jonathan. Where they are now, can they compete? And if they can't, what way do you think the club will go? Or what way would you like the club to go?
Firstly, I don't agree with the fact that when we want a player, we can get him. That's been evidently clear the last few years. Like we want to chew him in.
I don't think I said that, Jonathan. There's multiple moving parts in getting a player transfer. If a player prefers to go to Real Madrid, there's nothing you can do about it.
We'll never be bigger than Real Madrid.
No, we won't. No. Where I sit with FSG is my biggest issue with FSG has always been like the custodians of this club. They'll move on eventually. Like if I bought a house in the morning, or if I bought a business in the morning, I'd be expected to put some of my own money into it. And eventually, if I want to move that house on, flip it, or sell the business, I can absorb that money in, and when I get the profits back. I have a huge issue with FSG now. They need to stump up money now. If they can give us 200 million as a loan, and they say in 3 or 4 years' time when they sell the club, absorb that money back into when they sell it, I think they have to do that. Right now, I don't see how we get out of the trouble we're in because we don't have a sellable asset unless there's going to be a sacrificial lamb, i.e. Van Dijk or Salah. And even at that, is there anyone paying 100 million for either of the two of them now? I don't think so. Like, I'm always conflicted with the oil money, the gas money, the state-owned money. Like, while I think, like, if we're winning European Cups and leagues and I'm down the pub and I'm buzzing winning all these things, do I really worry about where the money comes from? Like, I'm going to be brutally honest. Like, if Bahrain or Kuwait or one of these countries came in and bought us and we're winning Champions Leagues and leagues to beat the band and the sessions were unreal, I'm not sitting there thinking, oh my God, where does this money come from?
Yes.
Sorry.
At least
And the sessions are unreal.
And do you know what? I'd be sitting beside you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting beside you.
Yeah,
and
so
I said this to Gav last night.
Go on, John.
I said the same thing to Gav last night.
I think 90% of supporters, if we were owned by, just say Kuwait, they just happen to be a country with lots of oil, and I think Bahrain, they took us over in the morning. I think there might be a little bit of noise at the start, but if we're suddenly buying X, Y, and Z players and we're top of the league and we're beating City to the title and not losing by a point to City, beating them by a point, I think most of that's forgotten about. I really do. I think most fans don't really care.
Yeah, but then, and I get that, but can someone in here explain to me what appetite one of these potential owners would have to buy Liverpool? So this is the thing for me. This is the crux of it for me. What's the alternative?
So, Shawnee, do you think we can compete? And if same question, do you think we can compete? And if we can't, where do you see the club going?
Do I think we can compete with FSG's current model? No, because I think, if I'm being 100% honest, I think when Klopp goes, I think a lot could be left to be decided. Klopp is a unicorn, all right? And we need to remember who hired him, okay? They hired him. So you can't hold that against FSG because they could have got a cheaper manager than Klopp. They could have got a cheaper alternative, what people were saying. They could have got a cheaper alternative to Darwin Núñez. They could have got a cheap alternative to Van Dijk, Alisson at the time. They could have went cheap so many times, and they haven't really. When you look at us now, lads, being honest, right, the grown-ups in the room, for example, you're a fucking a Khan in Saudi Arabia, and you see the fella across, because it's all about status to them, all right? It's all about status to them. You're going, how much is United going to cost? Well, the Glazers told your man Ratcliffe, if you're buying me with a consortium, I want 10 billion for the club. So, yeah, one off for sale. They're thinking, Liverpool, what's it going to cost? 5 billion. How would the fans feel about us? I tell you what, it won't be like Newcastle and it won't be like Man City. I've seen a few people, Kev O'Sullivan said tonight, if we become a billionaires plaything, I'm out. And I think with Liverpool more than any other club in the country, that would be the truth. I do really, I genuinely do. I know Jonathan is saying if you're top of the leagues, it go away. I genuinely do feel that a core of that support would be hit because it completely goes everything about against what Liverpool is about. And if you're a real Liverpool supporter, you understand that. I wouldn't be totally against Arab ownership or whatever, but I know it's completely unrealistic because, look, as rich as they are, we're not a good investment. They could literally buy United. They could be the ones who are in charge of bringing United back to the top. They would be thanked by United fans. They would be lauded by Manchester United fans. They might upset a few, but they would be lauded. And then the status thing for them was, Man City were doing this, but we're at the point United and now we're doing it. And that's the conflict. There's so many other clubs around England now where you'd look at Newcastle, the perfect example, literally the perfect example. Another opportunistic grab, but they would have taken, and I don't mean to offend anybody saying this, if you had to put fucking Saddam Hussein, Adolf Hitler, and Mike Ashley in a boardroom saying, pick one of them to be our owner, Mike Ashley would have been picked last because they just wanted rid of the cunt. They would have had anybody but him. So, and they ended up that the richest club in the world now. So they don't give a bollocks. They were going on about 0-hour contracts under Mike Ashley with the companies that he owns, Sports Direct. They don't give a bollocks anymore. They're defending the beheadings of journalists. We be doing the same. But I'm telling you now, lads, I swear to God, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and you can tell me I'm lying, but if you don't think I am, then you obviously don't understand the club. Saudi ownership would be completely rejected by the main core of Liverpool fans. And if they won anything, they'd get fuck all thanks. And I'll tell you who the first person would be to walk away from Liverpool if they come in and walk. Jurgen Klopp would say, that's enough of me, lads. I'm gone. I'm out of here. And that's a fact. And Jurgen Klopp is as good as anything that's happened to this club in the last 50 years. All right? People are turning around saying, what about a Todd Bowley consortium? I tell you what, tag this, mark it down. I'm telling you, in 2 or 3 years, they will be a fucking Barcelona job. Chelsea are a basket case at the moment, throwing fucking money around all over the place. All over the fucking place. Your man Bowley hasn't got a clue. He thinks he's managing fucking the LA Dodgers. He's not. He hasn't got a fucking clue. He hasn't a slightest idea. So what do you want? Do you want socios out in the club like Madrid? Never gonna happen. There's not a fucking correlation of United and Liverpool fans that could get together that could fucking put 5 billion together to buy this club. Lads, we're asking for a fucking Jesus Christ figure unicorn with socialist values and unlimited money to come down from the sky to turn around and say, here's all the money you want. We never upset anybody. We love human rights. We love the fucking LGBTQ plus community. We don't behead journalists. We fucking love Liverpool and everything it's about. We're just going to give you unlimited money. They don't exist. They do not fucking exist.
So where would you like to go, Seany?
My idea is pick your poison. I tell you what, if I'm being totally honest, Jonathan, if this Super League doesn't come in and there's no laws to protect FFP from football and finances actually having fucking rules, I would sit back and I'm being a hypocrite. I would take a Saudi-owned state. But I tell you what, they just won't buy us. There's no value in Liverpool.
I'm a bit like myself.
What I want and reality are two different fucking things. Do you get what I'm saying? What do I want? I want fucking Mila Kunis and Megan Fox to come in here and start pouring points for me in the gaff.
Right.
While me Moss sits inside watching fucking MasterChef and saying nothing. That's not reality. So you need to think. Like,
Well,
honestly, you can't.
Like, for me,
Like, this is what I'm trying to say. There's no, like, well, literally, you're living on a fucking prayer completely. Because no matter what you want, it's not going to work. Because the rules aren't there to protect FSG. The values of the club aren't there to allow a Saudi owner. And we're not actually down in the doldrums where they can come in and just buy us for a pretty penny. They'd get the Saudis and these people. You look at the UFC the weekend, they're all about fucking status. Live golf. We want the best players only playing in their league. We're going to pay them all the money. And the fans will thank us here because where else are you going to get this? If they bought Liverpool,
Gab
they
won't
would
have
get,
a bad
I'd say,
word said about Live Golf.
Live
Gab
Golf.
loves Live Golf.
they would literally get, they would get
Looking at
40-50% of the car going. Do you know what?
Here,
Fuck that.
I say I've read the room a bit wrong with my 90% statement. I'd say a lot of people wouldn't be happy with oil money. I just I'd say it's desperation because for so long we were the butt of everyone's joke. Liverpool, what like a joke figure, all your mates ribbing you. Then we got a taste of success, and I bloody loved the success, and I loved rubbing into everyone else and being cock of the walk. And now that success looks like it's been taken away. And I suppose I'm probably a little bit desperate by saying, "Oh, geez, like maybe I might take."
But that success.
take on.
But the way I see it is that success. Okay, we're 3 months into a season that hasn't gone well, right? And we have issues on the pitch. It's certainly right. But that's been taken away for a number of reasons. You know, like let me put it this way. For the model that FSG have, they've been exceptional at it. There's no argument. They're exceptional at what they do for their model, right? If they came in today or 10 years ago and said, we're going to sell all our best players for loads of money and spend 5% of that on players and fuck it, they would be appalling at that because they spend fucking way too much, right? I think they're brilliant at what they do for their model, right? Their model is to self-sustain. Everything we earn goes back into the club. And people will argue, oh no, they took the... Listen, go and look at the accounts. Everything that comes in goes out, right? Is it enough? That's the question. Are we making enough money? Yes, because we are miles behind clubs 10 years ago, like fucking different stratospheres. And now, every year when it comes up, it's like, oh, I think Liverpool might actually top United for revenue this year, which is fucking mad when you think of 10 years ago. You know what I mean? The other side of it is FSG, for me, get criticised because you're looking at what's going on in Manchester and soon to be in Newcastle. Because, let's be honest about it, right? They can't compete realistically against what's there because what they're doing is they are making up sponsors, making up revenue, and wherever they need to pump in to buy, they are able to do it because we're not protected by the financial fair play. Having said that, Liverpool have put themselves in a position over the last 12 to 18 months, certainly, where we're able to compete if we do things right. But I think they've taken their eye off the ball and they've left themselves a massive hole now. A massive hole. Because your model, if you continue to do it properly and you're fucking so focused on it that you do it properly, you will compete, right? You will compete. We've seen Liverpool compete, right? We've seen it with our own eyes. No matter how much anyone else has spent or whatever players they brought in, Liverpool have been right up there. Yeah, they've won one league title. They've been beaten very closely to another two. But that's competition. You can't just turn and go, well, we haven't competed because we've only won one. Well, we have competed because if we didn't compete, they would have ran away with the league, right? But that's what you're up against. But what they've done for me, right, is they have left themselves a massive hole. FSG, Jurgen Klopp, whoever is responsible in that club for the good times are responsible as a unit in the bad times. That's just how I feel about it. You know, like if me and Shawnee are out fucking digging the garden and we dig a garden really well, we go, we done a great job there, didn't we? right? But if the garden isn't done properly, someone's going to come and go, well, who didn't do the garden properly? And you're going to fucking point to each other going, well, I don't know what I was meant to do. So good times, it's a unit. Bad times, it's break it all up and fucking shout at someone. And who can we shout at the most? You probably have your right to shout at FSG. You probably have your right to shout at Klopp, fucking Michael Edwards, whoever else. You've every right to if you want, right? But you've left itself a massive hole. Now, the problem they have now is that the model they have not got the time to fix this over a period of time because they'll be left behind. That's just how cutthroat it is with what's around them. They haven't got the time. They have to, as I said earlier, they have to their detriment. They have to, Seany, they have to their detriment financially. They have to invest. But where? No, hold on. I'll answer the question.
This new Champions League won't matter what they do.
No, I understand it, but what I'm saying is
to get themselves legacy position come in.
Not next year, the year after. And boys, this is what I'm saying. It won't fucking matter what they do because they don't view football through the same prism as us. Everyone going mad in the chat. I could rattle off names. G10, fucking Sean P. Casey. I get your frustrations. I understand them. But we live in the real world, lads. You need to fucking think about it with rationale. They don't view football. It doesn't mean as much to them as it means to us. That's just a fact. Get over that. Get over it. It's as simple as that.
Conversely, Seany,
they're all saying
profitability.
What you're saying, Seany, is sorry, Matt. No, go away, man.
No. I was just going to say, conversely, is we don't care about the bottom line and the revenue.
No,
I don't give a shit about it at all. When the Swiss Ramble tweets come out, I read them and go, hey, look at how good we're doing. But I really don't care. And you know that those guys sitting there in Boston are looking at that going, how is our investment doing? Because they have spent $500 million more than that on it. I just got to fire through some super chats here. We've kind of fallen behind on it. Marcus Barnes, £2. Thank you very much. He says, too many fans want sugar daddy owners. Agreed, Marcus. And those people seem to forget the role that the person who's getting the money from the sugar daddy has to do, and that's fucking old wrinkly dudes. So, be careful what you wish for. Same as you, Seany. I don't know if Mila Kunis is going to know to let that Guinness rest if she's pouring it for you. Sean P. Casey had a super chat in here for £4.49. So after all that, Seany, we're bollocks. I guarantee the fan base would give up everything to go above Man United on 21, everything.
Yes.
Maybe for that day, it was like what Jonathan was saying, is that after you've won and you're in the pub afterwards, you're not thinking about where the money's coming from. You're fucking thinking about the hilarious stuff you're going to say to your buddies that have been busting your balls for years and years, We get to number 21. Yeah, and people aren't going to care in that moment because they're going to be getting a lot of payback for the shit that you've had for pretty much your entire adult life. But at the end of the day, again, the sugar daddy thing, there's a wrinkly ball bag waiting for you, and you have to confront it because it's right in front of your face. And City fans and Newcastle fans, they seem to be okay with it. I don't know if I would be. And Marcus Barnes had a £2 super chat. What about you, Gav? Would you want a Saudi owner? And I think you kind of answered that actually, right when he that super chat.
I was going to get to the owners thing, right? Or where the season's going. Like, people are going to come away from this show and they're going to say, "Oh, you defended them this, you defended them that." I don't give a fuck about them, right? I just want Liverpool to be good, and if that means that they have to, they continue to do what they're doing and they earn all this revenue and they put it all back into the club and we're competitive and we're trying to win trophies, which we have done, I'm fine with that. If they get some protection from somewhere with regards to the financial fair play, it helps us. If we don't, they're going to struggle. That's it, right? But the ownership thing, I've said it for so long. Liverpool are a 9 out of 10 club for me, right? They're a 9 out of 10 club. The only thing that stops them from being a 10 out of 10 club is if someone massively wealthy come in and went, you know what, bang, here we go. Do you know what I mean? But who should it be? Do you know what I mean? Who should it be? Because I'm not on board. I'm not on board with being owned by a state-owned, a sovereign state. I'm just not. I think Seany said it earlier. I would be one of those that would be vehemently against it. Where it's just not Liverpool Football Club, right? And it's not Manchester City Football Club either. Manchester City are a mid-table First Division / Premier League team. It's not Manchester United City, and it's not Newcastle either. Newcastle are a middle to bottom end Premier League side, right? When people say, "Oh, it's not Liverpool," no, it's not. But on a moral thing, I'm not a fan of it. I think if you want,
it's
in the perfect world,
state, though, right?
in a perfect, you see, anyone buying Liverpool Football Club is not buying it.
Yeah, but you never go to Anfield again if we were owned by beIN.
I would struggle. Yeah, I'd struggle. I really would. I think.
Wouldn't. You're a lying bastard.
No,
though,
I'm
right?
telling you, Shawnee.
Yeah,
Shawnee,
you would
come
be
here.
You're a lawyer.
No, I'm not. Hold on a minute. You gave your opinion, and I didn't call you a lawyer.
You don't give up.
Right? I'm giving mine. I'm telling you now. I'm telling you now. As a football club, as a football club that Liverpool are, right? And my own opinion on what's going on at Manchester City and Newcastle, I couldn't stand here, and I think what's going on at Manchester City and Newcastle is ludicrous, right? Absolutely ludicrous that it's happening. I couldn't, right, myself, turn around or wake up in the morning and go, do you know the fellas that own Man City, they got rid of them and they own Liverpool this morning? I couldn't. I just couldn't, and that's just me. I just and it's not.
Well,
yeah.
Because the only reason you want them is for the finances. That's all you want them for. You don't want them, and you know people will throw this and that around as to why they're good, bad, or indifferent. It's only for the finances, and the only reason you want them is because someone else has them and they're cheating. That's all you want them for.
I don't think myself or Shawnee said that we wanted them per se. I think we said that if they came on board, if we were taken over by them in the morning, would we be gone from the club? Me personally, I don't know. If, say, for argument's sake, I don't know, some Dubai took over, would I stop supporting Liverpool? Would I stop going to Anfield? I don't know. Now, I'm not here twerking for Dubai. I'm not saying, oh, Dubai, I want that oil money. I'm not saying I want that money. But if that possibility arose and it did happen, like, it's like I've supported Liverpool since 1987. It's hard to pull away from that.
Yeah, but you see, the way I look at it is, and going on what only you get, the only you're going to get is, like Shawnee said, status. They're going to buy Liverpool to say they own Liverpool, right? And the only people you can get to do that is stay owned, or fucking Elon Musk, or the fella that owned the fucking Amazon, right? Someone along them lines. They're your only options, because nobody's looking at Liverpool.
They're two sausages.
No, but hold on. But I'm talking about the amount of money they possess, right?
Yeah.
Right? The amount of money they possess. But, like, you know, for me, it's just, it's not like 10 years ago where they went, 300 million is a great deal and we can invest in that and we can get it up to whatever it's worth, and it's a brilliant investment. This is just somebody going in going, I'm losing a shitload of money on this, let's be honest about it. I'm going to lose a ton of money on it. But I can say I own Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah,
right?
it would only be a vanity project.
Yes, of course it would. And that's where you're going to end up. There's no other way around it. It's just, there's no other way around it. And for me, listen, if someone extremely wealthy came in, right, that wasn't a sovereign state, I can't understand how sovereign states are allowing own football clubs. I just can't get it, right? But if somebody walked in tomorrow and said, I made fucking 150 billion on whatever, a business, and I want to come in here, and I know I'm going to lose money on it, but I support the club or whatever. We don't even need to support the club because that's a bit too romantic. But I'm coming in here, I'm not going to lose a lot of money, but Liverpool is just fucking one of the bastions of sport and shit like that. Yeah, okay. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that them lads up the road are cheating, which they are, right? And the fellas for the north of them are fucking cheating, which they are, and they're being allowed to, and their only way out is to fucking go and do what they're doing. No, not for me. No, never.
So, Gab, I got a question.
That's
Like,
my bad.
is it just the concept of state ownership? Because I don't think I would be upset if the Norwegian Sovereign Investment Fund that has $1 trillion bought Liverpool.
Yeah, but you see, it's not even that.
Norway doesn't have
it's not even that. No. What I'm saying is, if somebody came in tomorrow, right, and bought Liverpool,
you'd never get a ticket for Anfield, man.
No, you wouldn't. No,
hey,
fuck
that! I already have to pay $1,000 for my.
No. What I'm trying to say is, all things being equal, right? Who really gives a fuck who owns the club, right? If you have FFP, and if you are as an owner, you're only allowed to put X amount in, okay? X amount in per how many years. FSG don't do that. They have this model. They're brilliant at it. Does it work? Does it not? We can argue it all fucking day. But What's happening with these is that they're probably putting in the 150 million every 2 years they're allowed to put in, and then they've some fucking random betting company that nobody fucking bets with, right? That are just turning around going, yeah, they give us 50 million a year. No, they fucking don't. No, they don't,
Well,
and they don't have to prove it.
Fair with that, Gab.
But what I'm saying, But what I'm saying is that if
they also
look,
perverted
Matt,
the market.
But hold on a minute,
They
Matt.
took the transfer fees and ballooned them so that only a handful of teams could afford players.
Yeah, but
the
hold on a
Neymar
second.
Thing,
Hold on a
which
second.
From Qatari owners.
If I offered every Liverpool fan tomorrow the FSG model, right? But we will invest 150 million, right, of our own money over every 50 million a year, 60 million a year, whatever. Every year of our own money in, everyone would fucking take it. Everyone would take it, right? I think. But at the same time, in 3 years' time, you go, we're to put another 200 million in. Doesn't matter, because them lads over there are to signing 5 deals that no one knows fucking anything about, and it's worth 200 million a year. So it makes no fucking difference. No matter what owner you have, right? Unless they are fucking cheating, it makes no fucking difference. So you're either picking a side now, do it right, and have to deal with no protection from the governing bodies, which is what's happening for a lot of clubs, not just Liverpool, or cheat. That's your 2 options right now. That's it. It's 2 options. Yeah. Cheat or do it right without protection. The biggest thing in this is governing bodies should be turned around to the clubs that are spending money that you know they're not generating, and turn around going, listen, we want every fucking piece of paper as to where you're getting this money from, and we're going to investigate it to the fucking last. We want to know everything, but they're not. They're just putting in.
Because they got a different piece of paper.
Frida's Florist in fucking Salford gives us 25 million a year. No, they don't. Prove they fucking don't. That's it.
I think Matt had a great point earlier about the American sports. Like a salary cap is probably the way forward, really. But then they'd probably be behind the brown envelope payments then as well.
Yeah, but sure, they're already doing that, Jonathan. They're already doing that. City's wage bill is less than ours on paper.
Yeah.
Because they get paid. Yeah. And look, this is the literal crux of the argument. It's pick your poison. Like, however you feel about FSG, you should direct your anger at the likes of UEFA for not protecting your football club.
Or you're not. But Johnny, it's absolutely. I think it's absolutely all right for Jonathan. For you, I think it's absolutely all right for you, Jonathan, me, Matt, anyone in that chat to turn around to FSG and just put it out. Not kick and scream and go on. Just turn around and go, listen, your model is great. You earn loads of revenue. You put it all back in, but you're worth X amount under your portfolio. You might need to put X amount per year in on top. Okay, you'll probably lose 250 million over the next 3 years, but the club will still be worth 4 or 5 billion. Like Jonathan said earlier, you can absorb that sort of thing. But if you don't, you're going to lose 400 million off your value. So you're actually spending it actually makes sense. But that's just the model they have. It's just as simple as that. You know what I mean? Like PMAX says, Gav, if the state bought LFC, you're shutting down the channel and quitting football. Yeah, I probably would. And that's genuinely, I probably would. Do you think I'm sitting doing this channel making a fucking fortune and it'll be a massive financial fucking burden to me if Liverpool were staying on tomorrow? It wouldn't.
The Daytrippers. Dubai will buy the Daytrippers and
they'll buy it, and they probably will. Someone in Dubai will
buy it. They pay me money on where the fucking wherever they want me on this thing. I don't give a bollocks. Fly me out to the pan. Look, no, we can all pretend we're all bashing the morality when it comes to
PMAC said something earlier and it stuck with me. He said, we're already a billionaire's plaything. They just spend their money on hockey and baseball. Get your facts straight. It took me 2 Googles to show that the annual salary of the Red Sox and the Penguins combined isn't what we spend on wages. That doesn't include player transfers, which isn't a thing in baseball and hockey. You don't buy players in baseball and hockey. You don't spend the insane wages, like the agent fees, all that stuff. You're out of your mind. Liverpool costs a ton of money to run. When you have to spend $80 million just to have the option to give a player a multi-million-dollar contract, that only exists in football. That doesn't exist in American sports. Their owners would have nothing to do with that. And I brought up the issue of the salary cap. I don't have an issue with salary caps as a general idea. The dark side of having a salary cap is be prepared to every 10 years to lose an entire season when the players go on strike or the
Well,
owners lock them out.
Super Dizzle 84 says football is dead. UEFA and FA and the FA, he might mean FIFA. I've killed it. Yeah, it's well on the way. Mike McCardle says, Gav, FSG don't want to win as much as we do. One title every 10 years will do them, just like the World Series. But Mike,
I mean, they've won 3. Since the turn of the century,
Mike,
they're the most successful team in baseball. So that's another thing that somebody's saying that doesn't mesh up with reality.
It's not real.
The Red Sox are the most successful baseball team of the last 20 years.
But my whole team would want
to win. So Danny Dwyer's going to jump off a cliff in the standards in a few weeks.
But my whole team would want them to win as much as we do, right? My whole thing on that is that that's just like if I think that, it's just my thought. There's no proof behind it. If they didn't want to, their model would be we're earning 600 million a year, but listen, we're only spending 350 of that because we don't want to win this really. We just want to hover around there. And do you know what it is? It would be the Glazers. Because the Glazers, I don't think, want to win. The Glazers just want to... Once them numbers keep ticking over the Glazers, they're not looking at fucking league tables or fucking fellas in yellow and green scarves. They're just literally looking at the numbers ticking over. That's not wanting to win.
Well, can you imagine
this conversation? The Glazers spend more than... Yeah, exactly. The Glazers spend more than Liverpool nearly every year, but they they've siphoned billions out of the club. Would you prefer them? Because they throw money around willy-nilly.
They're now
Give up the real football and go and play Ultimate Team and look after yourselves, because that's
I've only
the fucking world they're living
173
in.
players left in the Ultimate Team there. Massive call.
There you go. That's like
go
what
on,
Chelsea
Jonathan,
used to have out on loan when you were breaking all the rules.
Just showing you on the legacy thing. So if we don't qualify for the Champions League next season, that would be the last year we probably won't be in it because of the legacy thing, is it? So next summer we don't qualify for the Champions League.
You'd have one season out and then you'd be back in.
Then we'd be back in no matter what.
We'd be back in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it literally, Jonathan, you're hitting the nail on the head, and it comes down to this.
That worries me a little bit now, though.
But that's why. That's why.
We don't see a big need for
FSG.
I don't see
American capitalism in a nutshell. No, it's not. It's risk versus
If Liverpool don't make the top 4 this season, they'll be out of the Champions League next season, and then they're guaranteed the Champions League spot for every year after that, because their legacy will put them in. Basically, it's the Super League. It's just they have a list of 20 clubs in Europe that they will make sure is in the Champions League every season, and if they have to put 50 teams in it to plumaz a load of teams around Europe, they will, because it won't matter. That'll all get filtered out between fucking August and December, and then let's get down to the real business, and that's what it is. And it's the Super League under the UEFA badge, and 2025 is going to come along, and the new FFP rules has already been given to the clubs. So it's basically a case of you fill your fucking boots in the next 3 years, because when we come to 2025, we're going to make it look like, it was 70%, now it's only 60%, and they'll do all this stuff. And what will happen is you'll have sponsors coming out of fellas' ears by 2025, right? And they'll just keep going. You can only spend 60% of $1 billion this year, and they go, no, it's actually 1.4 billion that we getting sponsors now. And they're like, oh really? Oh yeah, because they'll put all this in place over the next 3 years. They've been pre-warned. They've been given the fucking answers to the test 3 years in advance.
I'll tell you what,
that's what's happening.
PSG's chairman is on the board of UEFA. That tells you all you need to know. That's the end of it. And lads, we can argue to the fucking cows come home about who owns Liverpool. It doesn't matter. It doesn't.
And listen,
it's never going to be what you want.
On a very simple, basic level, I think there's good argument to have on them being good in areas. I think there's good areas for them being bad in areas. I think there's good debate over who was responsible, genuinely, when it comes to the good things that are going and the bad things that are done. But Shawnee's right. Unless you're willing to cheat, right, you're not going to get anywhere, because that's probably the outcome. Unless you're willing to cheat under the current circumstances, you are just simply not going to compete. Even if they turned around tomorrow and said, we're going to put 60, 70 million a season in for the next 5 seasons of our own money, you're not, because what will happen is them other clubs will just go, they're putting 70 in, ring up someone there and get us 2 sponsors for fucking 150, will you?
The only
That's
thing
what's
is,
happening.
they can only sign so many players. Like City and Newcastle can only sign so many players. So
Yeah.
there would
Yeah.
still be other players for us to sign.
Yeah, correct. But what they'll do is when we go to sign anybody, they'll throw their interest in and just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until they strangle you. That's what's going to happen.
And that's
and
the
the fact that
thing that I
the
was
fact
trying
that
to
2 of them
bring
are there
up.
now is going to strangle the market. Absolutely strangle the British transfer market.
I think most people feel now the Klopp deserves to be backed. Like, it's a once in a lifetime manager. Don't let these years go by. He's only got 3-4 years left.
Fully
back
agree.
him
Why do you
now.
reckon Klopp signed on, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's a good question. Was he given guarantees? I don't know. Only he and the board know that.
I just look. I think a lot of the fans' anger, in particular, is like there's people who've been banging the drum for years, and then when we're winning titles and all, they go quiet. But then when it's shit again, they come back around. You know the type, fucking loud as a motorbike, but you nothing you can do about it. But I genuinely, like, I can't get past blaming it on, and I'm not turning around saying this is fucking. People turn around going, how can you blame Klopp? Because it's probably his fault this year.
Yeah, he's not infallible.
He's not infallible. And Julian Ward, that they didn't. If like, I'll just go back to the most recent. We had Chouameni, so where was the 50 million going for another midfielder? Like, fuck
surely
me,
Julian
we
Ward
could have bought.
5 minutes.
You cannot tell me there wasn't another at least one midfielder. You can't.
Of course,
you can't,
look, if Julian
you
Ward
can
was
blame
in his job
FSG
right,
because-
he was 5 minutes.
Yeah, but Shawnee, that's
Exactly.
not Julian Ward going to FSG going, we want to spend the money we had earmarked for Chouameni on
Exactly.
this midfielder.
Exactly.
And FSG saying, no, it's going down. It's going down. That's Julian Ward and his team
Yeah.
going to Jurgen Klopp going,
Exactly.
we've got 50 million. We like this guy. And Jurgen Klopp going, no, I think we can get another year out of Henderson, out of Thiago, out of Fabinho.
Yeah.
Naby will be good. Chamberlain looked good in training. And they went, okay. And then everybody got fucking hurt. And we end up towards the end of the season.
Chris Bracknell, like, Klopp hasn't just had one contract extension at Liverpool. He's had 2. If he had any doubts about how this football club is being run, there's no fucking way he would have stayed. Because if I'm being honest with you, I actually think Klopp hates England. He hates the media. I'm not even sure he loves football anymore the way he did. We've seen the way he got
like
through
the win.
COVID. Yeah, like, you know, like, you need to think about it, like, years and years ago. Think about how far the club have come. All right, forget who owns us. All right, forget who owns us. We'll have a near 70,000 seat stadium next year. Stand the chart that are going to have to pay through the teeth to stay in the front of the jersey, no matter what fucking competition we're in. Nike, they have to pay out. It's as simple as that. Like Mo Salah, we had to give him more money than we've ever played. He was there for the discussion. We don't lose our best player. You need to think you take the rough with the smooth. They've made a bollocks of an awful lot. They've done an awful lot of good. If they left tomorrow, would I give a bollocks? No. But would I be worried about what sort of hands we ended up in? Absolutely. The issue for me is if there was an alternative to FSG that were whiter than white and had fucking more money than God, sign me up. But I go back to it. People are saying I'm dealing in extremes. We're up against the extremes, lads. We're up against the extremes. There's people trying to tell you Haaland costs less than fucking Nunes. Because you're believing these narratives that are spun by TalkSport, by Sky Sports News. I fucking telling you now, you wouldn't buy a pair of fucking Erling Haaland socks for the money we've had to put out for Nunes. And that's just the fact of the matter. He's probably on 9 times more a week.
Well,
You don't. It's not factored in though, Gav. Do you know what I'm saying? Everyone just looks at. He was 80 million. He was only 50 million. Why didn't we sign Haaland? Because it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, well, no, it doesn't
You know
work
what I
like
mean?
that. But we're nearly at midnight. But I think going back to the start, or through the middle of the show there, I think in the immediate future, I think Jonathan and Shawnee both mentioned it. January and the summer is big, and not big in a case of, you know, to the extremes of big. I think it's just to dig ourselves out of a conundrum we've got ourselves into. I think it is quite big. Yeah, I think it's quite big. Can we get out of here now, Ma? It's 20 to 12.
I think so. I mean, regardless of Marcus Barnes with another £2 super chat saying, great debate, stay on for at least another hour, please. I don't know if we can get away with that, Marcus, but it's been brilliant. I mean, I just asked the chat before we leave. First off, please hit the like button. I mean, you get all this stuff for free. It might not help you find it because you obviously came and looked for it, but other people, when they're searching for Liverpool on YouTube, all those extra likes and subscribes, it just helps drive the show out to people that otherwise wouldn't be able to find it. I'm sure that's how I found it back in the day, because I certainly wasn't looking for, angry Irishmen yell about football. So, and I ended up being here. But I would just like to get everybody, like, let's say out of 5, 1 being lowest, 5 being highest. How would you rate the ownership of FSG? I'll throw this to the chat as well, too. Everybody throw your answers in there. I mean, we're talking off-field, on-field for the full 12 years. Jonathan, you got a rating for me?
Yeah, off-field, 5 out of 5. Can't argue with the new stadium, the commercial revenue. On-field, 3 out of 5.
It's not bad. Shawnee?
In a world with rules, 5 out of 5. In this world without rules, doomed out of 5.
You smart ass. And Gav?
No, it's just a fact. It's
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
I think if you look at it overall, they've done an outstanding job at Liverpool Football Club. But I kind of agree there's areas where they could improve. And that's not to say that they're up against what we've spoken against. But I think the mistakes they've made, misjudging a fan base, and maybe just pushing the boat a little bit more at times, and maybe that's a little bit down to Klopp. But you kind of have to put them all in together. I'd say 4 out of 5. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to go kind of the same as what Jonathan went. I think off field, I think 5 out of 5. In terms of the bones of this club, we are in. I mean, I did a pile of research for this show. The state of the club is so much better than it was 12 years ago, and it cannot be argued. I don't think it can be argued. They added 15,000 seats by the time the Annie Road is done. 15,000 seats to Anfield, and we get to stay at one of the most famous stadiums in all of sports in the entire world. And that's what FSG did with the Red Sox. It's what they've done with us. They won't do it with the Penguins because Pittsburgh's hockey rink is a fucking shithole. And on the field, I give them 4, so I'd average out to be about No, it's a big igloo. It's like inflatable. Their hockey rink is just embarrassing. So they need to build a new hockey rink for them. So yeah, don't be surprised if FSG doesn't have a ton of money to only spend. We're not the only thing they own, but I'd give them a 4.5 out of 5. But just before we get out of here, just remind everybody there's still a few more. I checked our friends over at weareliverpool.ie. We got our Daytrippers beanie hats, also called toques in the civilized world, available for order. There's got to be only a couple of them left. €22. As soon as I get them in, they'll ship them out. Can't wait because it is getting to be toque weather over here in Canada. But man, this was a lot of fun. Jonathan, thanks a lot for coming on, man. You got anything before we get out of here?
No, thanks very much for having me on. Enjoyed it. Thanks very much. Yeah. I'm actually off over to the game Saturday, and I've never been beaten at Enfield, so we'll be all right.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jonathan. No point in fucking watching now. Fuck's sake, talk about jinxing it.
Yeah. And Shawnee, another couple of pints of Guinness for you?
No, we'll be hitting the hay. Actually, I probably won't. I'll probably be on Xbox with Gav, I'd say. But just fair play to the 99% of the chat for keeping it bleeding stum, and a fucking big fair play to Jonathan for coming out behind the Twitter avatar and coming on and cheering his view and having the balls and having the gall to come on and speak his mind. It's not fucking as easy as it looks. And the thing is, you ask 95% of these people, they'll go missing. They won't reply, or they'll have some sort of stupid excuse. And everyone knows who I'm talking about. The fucking Egypts. Oh, my new favourite thing. Sausages. That's what they are.
Yeah, I love the word sausages now, don't
again, fair play to Jonathan coming on. Fair play to Matt for keeping him in the house. I'm not sorry for going on ranting. Look, the World Cup's in Qatar in 3 weeks. They might soften the blow and see, you might actually love it and go, do you know what, I want a bit more of that. Or you might be just completely fucking fed up with it. But enjoy it anyway. Enjoy it tonight. Yeah,
that was good. And Gav, I think this turned out about as good as you could have hoped for, eh?
Yeah, it was a great discussion, in fairness. It covered loads, and like Shawnee said, the people in the chat kept it civil, because when things like this come up, it can get a bit heated. And but now, listen, you're absolutely fine in there having different views to me or Shawnee or Jonathan or Matt or anybody in that chat. You're absolutely fine having different views once you keep it civil, and it was kept civil tonight. I didn't really see one bad comment in there tonight. Jonathan's come on, fair play to him. Very good feedback already in the chat about Jonathan, so he'll be on again, no doubt. And rest of the week,
He won't be a fucking Leeds beat as the
if
weekend.
Leeds beat us, he can go fuck himself. Let's be honest. But what they say Thursday, we've Premier League forecast tomorrow. We've full-time Reds on Saturday. We've the Fatback 4 on Sunday, and then we're back into it again next week.
Yeah. It doesn't stop until it does stop, and then we'll have to figure out what exactly we're going to do to fill the 6 weeks of the fucking World Cup up with. Yippee. Well, anyways, that was great. Thanks, everybody, for joining. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please hit it on the way out before you go. Bell icon and all that YouTube-y stuff sort of thing. Thanks for joining us on the Viewer's Voice, the LFC Daytrippers. See you guys next Thursday.